All right, let's begin by asking you your take on some of these issues that we have been talking about. We cannot look even at one paper without seeing all of these travails, the issues with IPOB, the sit-at-home order yesterday, the after effects of that, and the fact that, you know, some NECO students missed seating for their mathematics, a course subject, because of the sit-at-home order. Let's begin from there.
But it's quite unfortunate that students who have the opportunity to determine their destiny and career are caught in the midst of the sit-at-home declared by independent peoples of Biafra. But I think that it's a sacrifice that is worth the liberty of the people of the Southeast, because we are united with them in agreement that the marginalization of that sector of the country, it's intolerable, it's unacceptable. If you have visited the Southeast, there's no federal presence there in terms of infrastructure and even companies and government establishments. It's like the civil war is still on. And I don't know how we can sustain that mentality to treat the people as if they are not part of us. And so for me, I think that it's come to a time when the people of the Southeast should determine their fate. The right to self-determination is guaranteed by international law. It's guaranteed under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. It is guaranteed under the United Nations Charter, or under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So if a people decide that they don't want to be part of any particular country, they have a right to do so. But having said that, I believe that the agitation for self-determination is occasioned by neglect. It's occasioned by marginalization. It's occasioned by persecution. If you look at the entire Southeast, for instance, in this particular administration, you cannot find any major position from number 1, let's say, to number 4. The president, the vice president, the Senate president, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, or even in the armed forces. You know, and these are people who contribute immensely towards the economic development of Nigeria. Is the third largest ethnic group in Nigeria. So how do you run a nation like that? And then we're going to 2023, it's like there's not even any agreement in terms of power sharing. It's always between the North, Hausa Fulani, and the South, Yoruba-dominated political space. I just think generally it's unacceptable to marginalize a race for so long. So right. I'm in support of the sit-at-home declared by IPOB, but I do not support the areas of violence.
Precisely.
People feel that they do not want to support your struggle. You cannot compel them by violence, or even leading to burning their properties or killing anybody who probably does not support that call. It's self-defeatist for a house to be divided against itself. So in that regard, I think that there was some extremism on the part of IPOB in trying to enforce the sit-at-home through violence and repression. Because what you are suffering in the hands of the Nigerian state, you cannot then impose it on your own people. Otherwise, charity should always begin at home. Thank you.
All right, Abun, thank you. Let's interrogate some of these concerns you've raised. You've identified the fact that, well, self-determination is guaranteed under international protocols. Nigeria is a signatory too. And also the right to civil disobedience is also, you know, allowed in the Nigerian constitution. But the mode and pattern that we are seeing, which is playing out in the South, especially within this group called the IPOB, proscribed as they are you concerned that it's taking extremist dimensions? We've seen pictures, we've seen videos of what happened yesterday. We've seen poor people who are just struggling to survive, who are setting up some backyard restaurants, fixing their meals, and so-called IBO people move in, scatter everything. The livelihood for that day is lost for that poor woman, and several other cases such as that. Is that not assuming some extremist dimension? And how do you think this should be best handled?
Well, if you look at the events in the Southeast geopolitical zone, you will discover that this is the second time in the series of a sit at home. The first one was on May 30th, which was in remembrance of the fallen heroes of Biafra. And it was absolutely successful, about 110%. It witnessed about 110% success. So that tells me clearly who is in charge in the Southeast. The governors by now should have resigned. All the governors of the states in the Southeast have lost legitimacy, because you cannot claim to be a governor in a state in which you have no control over your people. Loyalty in the Southeast now is to IPOB. Loyalty in the Southeast now is to Nnamdi Kanu. So what that tells me clearly is that if you organize election in the Southeast today and IPOB decides to raise candidates, they will floor all the major political parties if there is free and fair election. Because the people who will decide the votes are the ones who stayed at home yesterday, are the ones who stayed at home on May 30th. So for me, honestly, it just shows that IPOB cannot be proscribed, contrary to the postulation of the federal government. Because you don't proscribe an organization that has mass following in the way we have seen it in at least two major instances of the sit-at-home that has been declared. Of course, like I said, the pockets of violence that was witnessed yesterday is totally not acceptable. But it's not sufficient to undermine the potency of the cause of the struggle. You know, they're just unfortunate incidents that happen, which I think the leadership of IPOB should sit down and bring to book those who are responsible for such violence. I mean, they should be able to identify them and convince the people that that was not their intention.
Do you really think they have the capacity
effort to try to suppress the people through force or intimidation? So that said, I believe that the Nigerian state should take a lesson from what is going on in the Southeast and sit down with IPOB and discuss the major grievances and see how, you know, they can be incorporated into the mainstream politics. They can be incorporated into the mainstream administration for the region to move forward. Because, I mean, given the experience of what happened to El Zarzaki, I mean, in Zaria, you can't suppress these organizations. Given the experience of what has happened even to Boko Haram itself, or to our People's Congress, you know, so these are ethnic militias that you probably have to find a way to discuss with them in the way that we did with Niger Delta militants, and we're able to get peace in that region. So for me, I do not support the destruction of properties, the lootings, the killings. But generally, I believe that the sit at home was a resounding success, despite these pockets of violence. And it's a lesson to the Nigerian state. In the Southeast today, authority belongs to IPOB. In the Southeast today, loyalty belongs to the organization being led by Nnamdi Kanu. And I think that you have at least sent a message to those who claim to be political leaders to turn in their resignation.
Ebun, you've touched on a couple of things. I want us to, you know, zero in on the part of the government. I want you to evaluate. You have just said that IPOB sit-at-home order obviously has shown who's in charge in the southeastern states of the country. But let's look at what this means, the implication of this for governance in the country, starting from the southeastern part of the country, and the implication that you know, this will have on governance in Nigeria generally.
Well, I think that what is clear from all that is going on in the Southeast clearly is that the entity called Federal Republic of Nigeria is a shaky conglomeration that has no foundation to stand at all. Because in the normal federation, I mean, people should have allegiance to the central government. But the central government itself has lost legitimacy. It has lost control. You know, otherwise, you don't have a federation in which a major player in that federation is not agreeing with the principles of the federation. And you just see what's going on in the Southeast. It's also going on in the Southwest. I mean, Chief Sunday Adeyemi is leading a formidable force asking for Yoruba nation. And I mean, it's resounding with the people. We show that a majority of our people are disenchanted with the system. And that's why those of us who probably will not go the route of the route of Nnamdi Kanu or Igboho are calling for restructuring. Because you can't force people to accept oppression. You can't force people to accept economic policy that are not bettering their lives. You can't force people to accept a federation that is skewed in favor of a particular entity. And so I think that the lesson for the Nigerian state is to say that, look, it's time for us to sit down to agree on the conditions of togetherness. You can't continue to mouth Federal Republic of Nigeria. You can't continue to use a constitution to force people together, to take away their resources, to take away their destiny, to take away their potentials. So I think, going back to the question you have raised, the lesson for me of what happened yesterday in the South is that there's no country called Nigeria as we sit now. The country that is called Nigeria is for the politicians, is for the ruling class. But for the ordinary Nigerian, it's to your tent, O Israel. Everybody owe allegiance to their nationalities. They owe allegiance to their particular areas. And I think we should find a way to sit down, to agree whether we should be together or whether we should separate. We cannot continue to force people to show allegiance to a federation that is not working for the majority of the people.
All right. You've talked about having a conversation or perhaps some form of dialogue with people like Nnamdi Kanu, people like Igboho. Are you with us, Mr. Degbora?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, great. Now, let's talk specifically in terms of Nnamdi Kanu's IPOB. I mean, these are a group of people who have been very clear about what they want. Is it possible to have a dialogue with this group of persons?
Yes, it is possible. I mean, let's take for instance, there's an organization called Miyetti Allah. They have executive, they have registered office. Every day, they come out supporting Fulani herdsmen. In spite of the orgy of violence that these herdsmen are imposing on people, raping, killing, denying people of their farmlands, yet there is an organization registered that is maintaining visibility, is not proscribed by government, and every day they come inciting, their members into this kind of violence, and there's nothing happening. And then, I mean, look at Sheikh Gumi, supported by DSS and security agencies. He's gone into the wilderness to discuss with bandits who are holding and wielding guns and AK-47, and nothing has happened. So if there is dialogue in those instances, and the heavens have not fallen, so why wouldn't you dialogue with Kanu or Igboho or any other person who is calling for secession or self-determination?
My point is, can there be a middle point?
Even after the civil war in Nigeria,
yes,
Nigeria and the Southeast came together to discuss the options for ending the war. So I don't think that you can say any specific group of people do not deserve to be called for a roundtable discussion. When it happened in the Niger Delta, we had to engage the Niger Delta Avengers. You remember the vice president went through all the creeks in Akwa Ibom, in Rivers, in Delta, in Ondo, to meet with the militant leaders, to meet with the community leaders. And it was that trip, that engagement, that gave them a sense of responsibility, a sense of belonging. So I think that it's important to first of all examine how Kanu got to this country. Was his extradition lawful? Did he follow due process?
We'll come to that in a moment.
Was this more good as is being claimed? And if that is the case, Nigerian government should own up and take responsibility and probably put an end to his trial, and then discuss with him on behalf of the people that are clearly have allegiance to him. I honestly do not agree that it's not possible to discuss with Nnamdi Kanu. Maybe there are excesses, maybe he's an extremist in a way, but given what has happened in the Southeast on May 30th and yesterday, his extremism resonates with the people of the Southeast. His excesses is acceptable to those people. So you must contend with him.
Oh, all right. Yeah, but some persons would also argue, because we had reports coming in from the Southeast yesterday, many people who decided to stay at home stayed at home not because of the fact that they wanted to comply with the order of IPOB, but because of fear that if they come out, they may be harmed one way or the other. But I'm talking about, you've cited the example of, the Niger Delta Avengers and how the government negotiated with them. But there's also a point of difference and distinction here. In that case, the people were not asking for a separate state. They were not asking for a separate country. They were asking for equitable distribution of resources. They were asking for all wealth in their communities to benefit the people in their communities. The creed of IPOB is different from this. They're adamant about their position that, look, we want a separate country. We do not want to be part of Nigeria. And that's why I'm asking, what kind of middle point do you think the Nigerian state can have with the leadership of IPOB when their positions are clearly poles apart?
Well, you know that it is said that those who make peaceful change impossible make violent change inevitable. The agitation for self-determination for the state of Biafra is actuated by marginalization. If Nigeria sits down today and creates an additional state in the Southeast to achieve equilibrium, that agitation will subside. If Nigeria sits down today and decide on rotation and say, well, maybe after the North has ruled, when the presidency goes to the South, it will go to the Southeast, Biafra will more or less disappear. If Nigeria today decides to appoint the chief of army staff, or maybe the position of Senate president, or major positions in the country and given to the Southeast, if Nigeria decides to cite economic interests and major infrastructure in the Southeast, you complete the second Niger bridge, you build institutions in the Southeast, IPOB will lose legitimacy. The reason why IPOB is popular is because of marginalization. The things fueling Biafra is purely neglect. If you address the core issues of neglect, of marginalization, of persecution, of total lack of interest in that region in terms of development, nobody will listen to Kanu. I'm telling you the truth. So I believe that there's no extremism that cannot be handled through discussion. If there's a conscious effort on the part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to recognize the people of the Southeast as being part of this nation, there will be nobody to follow Kanu. And I do not accept that people stayed at home because of fear. The truth, whether Nigeria wants to accept it or not, is that the agitation for Biafra resonates with at least about 100% of Easterners. The Igbos are fully in support of the agitation for self-determination because of neglect. So I don't think that it is true that they stay at home because of fear. They support the agitation. I have spoken with majority of their leaders, and you can see that when governors say, if you don't come to work, you will lose salary, you will lose your job, and people don't respect such declaration, who is forcing them to stay at home? I don't agree with you, sir. I believe that the agitation for self-determination in the Southeast finds support with the people of the Southeast because they feel that they are not being carried along by the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Let's talk about this issue of being carried along by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the marginalization and all of that. Let me ask you, let's evaluate government's response to this so far. Now, you have constantly talked about, this is a roundtable discussion is possible here. But the question is, who are those that will be on this roundtable? Obviously, the federal government and IPOB. But are there willing participants for this conversation to take place? The government's response so far, the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu, the extradition of Sunday Igboho, and the way the government has responded so far, does that give you any inkling as to whether the government is interested in having a conversation with this self-determination, determining group across the country? Is government interested? Can this conversation actually hold?
Well, you see that if there is a genuine desire to dialogue with the representatives of the Southeast, we can identify them. They have representatives in the National Assembly, whether you like it or not. I mean, the Senate minority leader, is a popular person. It's somebody who is at least is the face of the Southeast in the National Assembly. They have governors, and then they have community leaders within the Southeast now. At least the socio-cultural group called Ohaneze Ndigbo is accepted as the major cultural group representing that entity. They have some divisions here and there, but over the years, it's been acceptable that Ohaneze Ndigbo represents the interests of the Southeast generally. So if you pick representatives of Ohaneze, you pick the representatives in the National Assembly, you pick amongst the governors, you pick amongst the various business interests in the Southeast, and you have genuine discussion with them towards finding some common grounds for participatory democracy. Surely that will calm down the interest of the people. When you make other people constitute a dot in a circle, when you make utterances that seems to incite them to say we will teach them in the language they understand, those kind of things, it raises a lot of in the minds of people, and that there is a desire to eliminate them or probably just to keep running the federation, not caring what they think about. So I believe that our leaders need to show some kind of empathy, in what people go through. It is claimed that there are no infrastructure, there are no good roads, no electricity. Virtually all development in the Southeast is by their individual citizens who build communities, who build universities, who build hospitals, who build schools. I mean, that shouldn't be the case, because in other parts of Nigeria, we see evidence of development. We see that hospitals are being built in Lagos State, in Ondo State, in Kaduna State. We see Nigerian Defense Academy. We see a lot of infrastructure, train stations. In all these train stations going on around Nigeria, did you see anyone that landed in the Southeast? I mean, how do you treat people like that?
All right.
So I believe that there is opportunity for dialogue, recognize their true leaders, and sit down and fashion out a way in which we can give them a sense of participation. I don't think it's proper. I'm not an Igbo man, but honestly, all the demands of IPOB and the Igbo people resonates with me, because it's a cry for justice, it's a cry for equity, and it's a cry that resonates with anybody who has conscience.
Talking about this dialogue, how far-reaching should this dialogue be? Because the issues which you've highlighted, of course, the issues of marginalization are quite real and potent. But now there's a fresh issue of the man who is leading IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, in detention. And part of the reasons, in fact, primary reason which they went on the sit-at-home protest yesterday was to demand for his release. If there's supposed to be a dialogue, would that also be a primary part of what should be on the table?
Well, if you go through the experience in South Africa, the minority whites thought that they will keep imposing on the majority black people of South Africa. And the leader of that movement, Nelson Mandela, was put to trial and sentenced and put in jail. But from jail, he was influencing the majority views and opinion and lifestyle of the majority black people, so that it became inevitable to release him. I think we should learn from history. If Nnamdi Kanu is the face of the Southeast today, you put him in jail, you put him in underground, you even kill him, it will not take away the idea that the people of that particular entity in this nation are calling for recognition. So for me, if I'm in a position to advise the government, it's to terminate the trial, honestly. Because, you said that he's guilty of treasonable felony, he wants to overrun the system. Honestly, for me, I've not seen evidence of a particular person that he has killed. I'm not saying that I support all that he is doing, but Yesterday, I read in the news that Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, sent a letter to the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation asking for details of 800 members of Boko Haram that are claimed to have been arrested for so many months. There's no trial. We don't even know whether they are still in detention or they have been released. Look, we're not all fools. We know we see what is going on. In a way, it seems that the government is applying different measuring rods for treating a particular people and treating another particular people. If you say Nnamdi Kanu is guilty of treasonable felony, then what happens to Boko Haram? Honestly, you can imagine if the people of the Southeast had shot down enough aircraft in this nation, probably the government would have wiped out the entirety of that region. But it happened somewhere in this country and nothing has happened. We have buried that idea. We don't even know where the plane is. We've been told that Boko Haram and bandits have acquired rockets that can shoot down planes. And I mean, so who else is waging war against Nigeria? Is it people who are engaged in civil disobedience and staying at home, or people who are acquiring weapons every day and you pay them millions to acquire more weapons and there's nothing being done about it? And you put somebody in trial and say he's committing treasonable felony, you chase the other one out of the country and you want to extradite. I mean, honestly, let's be fair to ourselves. I don't think anybody is under any illusion currently that Nigeria is being run as an equal state. I don't think anybody is under any illusion. That's why you see that in spite of what happened to Chief Onafefe James Sibori, in spite of all the persecution, the trial, please go to Delta State today. He's still a hero. I saw a senator kneeling down before him on social media recently. I mean, if people accept,
do you approve of such? Do you approve of such gesture?
To them, in spite of what the federal has done to denigrate them, it just shows you the sense of discontentment with the nation called Nigeria. Well, everybody owes allegiance to their regions and to their leaders.
But
so I believe that the room for dialogue should not be closed. The trial should be terminated. It should be freed, and then it should be used as a platform to get others to support the dialogue through him to reach out to the people of the Southeast. Honestly, that is the solution to this issue.
Supporting our regions and putting our ethnicity before our nationality is not something we want to, promote, at the detriment of our country, is it, Ebu?
No. It's not about supporting nationality. Nigeria is a federation. The meaning of federation is that there's a weak center and strong regions. It is the military that has imposed this unitary system of federalism. In a federation, allegiance is to the ethnic regions. Strength should be in the states. Political allegiance should belong to the states, to the regions. Economic power should belong to the states. Nigeria is the one running the federation upside down. There's no federation where the central becomes so strong as to be distributing money to the states. There's no federation that the federal becomes so strong as to be the only center of power. The federal should just be like a coordinating unit. I'm not preaching division at all. I'm asking that we run the federation the way it should be run. It is Nigeria that is running the federation upside down. You don't see a federation whereby the center is stronger than the states. I mean, go to United States and other federations. It is the states that have the power. The center is just a coordinating unit.
All right. Yes, the states have the power, the economic power, but the allegiance of the citizens go to the nation, go to the country, and not to the state, the federating units which you are talking about. But let's quickly discuss the issue of Igboho as well. Senior citizens in the Yoruba communities across the southwest of Nigeria are making moves. Most of these moves are not involving the Nigerian government, the leadership of the Nigerian government, at least as much as we know at the moment. Do you think that's enough to provide the kind of soft landing that is required to resolve this matter without it escalating to a different level?
Well, honestly, I don't know what you mean by soft landing. First of all, let me tell you that I do not support that we should have a Yoruba nation. Personally, I'm not an apostle of Yoruba nation. But honestly, if Chief Sunday Adeyemi, colleague Igboho, and his followers decide that that is what they want to pursue, the Nigerian law allows people to do that. Section 39 gives freedom of expression. Section 40 gives freedom of association and assembly. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, United Nations Declaration on Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UN Charter, several laws allow people to demand what is acceptable within the law. So I don't know who needs a soft landing, whether it's Nigeria that needs a soft landing or Igboho, because this is somebody whom DSS stormed the residence in the middle of the night like a thief. And we're told that people were shot, people were killed, and then suddenly you then turn around to chase him out of the country. It's a case of the hunter be hunted. The people that should be on trial are the people who went to other people's homes at night. If you want to arrest me for suspicion that I've committed an offense, the law is clear. Administration of Criminal Justice Law. You ask for a bench warrant, you ask for a warrant of arrest, rather, or you send an invitation to me to appear. There is no law that allows security agencies to storm my house in the middle of the night and be shooting. There's no such law. So I think it's the federal government actually that needs a soft landing, not Igboho. I don't see anything he has done that warrants that he should be chased out of Nigeria.
Well, the federal government...
It is the federal government that is on trial.
The federal
government... Like I said, I'm not an apostle of Yoruba Nation, but I support what the law supports. And the law allows Igboho to ask for Yoruba Nation. The law allows Igboho to say that he doesn't want to be part of Nigeria. That's not a reason to chase him out of Nigeria at all.
The Nigerian government, through the Department of State Security Services, has said that accused him of stockpiling arms to actualize his demands for Yoruba Nation. And they say when they stormed his residence, they met, fire, and they had to return fire, which resulted in the death of about a number of 2 persons. And they found weapons, stockpile of weapons in his residence. That's the charge they've put against him. You don't believe those charges?
Maybe because of my own peculiar experience, either by virtue of my involvement in students' union struggle or involvement in pro-democracy activism generally. It's difficult for me to trust law enforcement agencies. Honestly, I'm sorry to say, given my own peculiar experience about what I've suffered in the hands of law enforcement agents as a student and as an activist. But having said that, that is the word of the DSS against Igboho. We have not had his own version. And we can't hear his own version until a template is created where he will not be under molestation, where he will not be under any threat. The last time I read is that a court in Osun State or somewhere in Oyo State has issued an order against the DSS from arresting him. The people that are in custody in Abuja, a court has given an order for them to be produced and they have been granted bail. So for me, if you think something is wrong, you follow due process of law. I mean, between Sunday Igboho and Miyetti Allah and Boko Haram, and the bandits, who are the people stockpiling arms? I mean, we see people on television, national television, holding AK-47 with several rounds of ammunition and dialoguing with security agencies, with governors, and nothing has happened. And then you claim that somebody is stockpiling arms without evidence, and then you storm his house and you are shooting. Oh, come on, please. I don't think that we should get to that level, whereby we treat people with different standards. That's no longer justice. So for me, if you have any allegation against anybody, take him to court and prove the allegations in the way that the law recognizes, not to go to the house and shoot and seek to forcefully, arrest. I don't think that our democracy supports that.
Ebu,
so
not too long ago,
in this instance, with all due respect, sir.
Ebu, not too long ago, the southern governors came together and made some decisions about, a couple of things. One is to stop open grazing. The second being that if the federal government security agencies must come into the state, they, being the chief security officers of their states, must be carried along, and they must know what this security agencies are coming to do in their state, and they must be part of it. I said that to ask this question. What should be the role of state governments in all of these issues? Because again, like we said earlier, Nigeria is a federation. I mean, and the states are the federating units, and the governors, the governors in the states are in charge of those states. So what should be their role in dealing with these issues? We have also seen that some of them are trying to also preserve, their regions and where they come from, which is also rightly their rights to do. What should they be doing at this point in time?
Well, like I've always said, I mean, it's to first of all commend the governors for their courage. And you will notice that their assembly cut across political divides. There were APC governors there. There were governors from the PDP. And the major decision they took was to ban open grazing. And there was bedlam, there was uproar from the presidency at then. But as of today, open grazing has been banned in Katsina Emirate, the home state of the president. Open grazing has been banned in Taraba
They've actually
State.
denied that allegation. That there's no
and
such
several
thing.
other northern people, northern states are already complaining about the extremism of the herdsmen, especially the foreigners among them, who tend to perpetrate criminality and violence. So it's no longer even a tenable case to blame the southern governors, because what they saw, their northern counterparts have now seen it. The people of the north have now seen it, that it's no longer fashionable to allow cattle to graze openly over people's legitimate farmland without approval, to allow criminals to bear weapons and be raping women and killing farm owners. I mean, so for me, the southern governors deserve commendation. And what they have done is clearly to represent the desire of their own people. Because the general consensus within the southern part of Nigeria today is that they don't want grazing in an open form. I mean, we cannot deny people from plowing their trade, but just like spare parts people have to rent apartments or houses to ply their trade, if you want to graze animal, then you discuss with the owners of the land and agree on the terms of the engagement, how much you pay for it, the duration of the engagement, and then there'll be some measures of control so that people can be held responsible and say, this is the person who came to buy land from me. So if there's any problem there, you then know who to hold responsible. But to just open up the flanks generally and say, just go and graze on anywhere you like, then you don't know who to hold responsible for violence or rape, that shouldn't continue. Then secondly, the southern governors asked for dialogue. They said that they wanted Nigeria, the presidency, to talk to the people, and to convoke a kind of discussion that will give people the opportunity to air their views. For me, honestly, the issue of sovereign national conference, the issue of a discussion on what or how Nigeria should move forward is something that we cannot avoid. Because this constitution that we are currently running is not in the interest of Nigeria. It will continue to bring iniquity. It will continue to bring agitations where you allow resources located in a particular area, for instance, Niger Delta. And then you say the means of distributing that resources is population. And then this population is fueled by the migration of foreigners to a particular part of the country, and they are counted as part of the population of that area, which means that the resources will go more into that area. The second
unfortunately, we have to go.
Resources is land mass.
We have to go, Ebu.
Honestly, with all due respect,
we want to thank you very much for your time.
Deceive ourselves that such iniquity can last for a longer time than people have tolerated them.
All right.
Then talking about what you have raised about the governors.
Unfortunately, we do not have time to continue.
The Constitution.
Sorry, if you can hear us, we can hear us. We might have to go now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, we are out of time. That's what we're trying to prompt you, that we cannot continue with the conversation. Thank you so much for your thoughts so far. Ebunolu Adegborowa is a senior advocate of Nigeria. He joined us to look at the issues of agitation and how best the federal government can resolve this crisis. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ebun. It was a pleasure to have you join us. All right, we will be looking.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.